Well. Hi, and welcome to Driven's Fundraising Superheroes Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Sciscente, and we are innovators in nonprofit technology with a passion for helping organizations like yourself unlock the true power of your data. We take a partnership approach with our clients and really want to help them understand their metrics and get the most out of their fundraising. So if you're interested in learning more, please give us a visit at trustdriven.com. We'd love to hear from you. We cannot begin to help people without really understanding where they come from first. 𝐜𝐨𝐬𝐬𝐿 is a consultant and nonprofit founder who believes in connecting with the children his organization serves. Although he is based in Texas, his organization, Wisdom for Kids, has helped more than 1,000 underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using their local resources. 𝐜𝐨𝐬𝐬𝐿 is known as a CEO Confidant. He's an influencer, LinkedIn strategist, international TV host, public speaker, CEO, board member, and philanthropist. He has done everything and has worked with tons of communities worldwide. And today he joins us to discuss the importance of connecting with the community that you want to serve on a genuine level. So thank you so much, 𝐜𝐴ngel, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. What an honor. And obviously, thank you very much for everybody who's listening to us today.
Fantastic. So can you start us off getting to know you a little bit better? Can you share about your work at Wisdom for Kids and the mindset you created around that organization?
Oh, absolutely. So basically, well, I live in Plano, Texas. I've been here for the last 10 years. Plano is a suburb north of Dallas, for the people that are not acquainted with Dallas or with Texas. And I have basically in 2016, I left corporate America and I started my consulting business, but I also started, to your question, Wisdom for Kids. And I reached out to a friend of mine and then to his dad, and we all three started Wisdom for Kids, which is an international foundation. It's a charity, and what we do is we help underprivileged kids in Latin America become entrepreneurs using the local resources. I consider myself, Sabrina, someone who helps connect the unconnected. I think that I was born to do this. I think that even my name, which in Greek means messenger angel, So I think that my mission in this dimension, in this planet, in this time, is to actually help connect as many people as possible to the unconnected. And there's unfortunately millions and millions of people unconnected in the world. And specifically just in Latin America, there are 81 million kids that live in poverty. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of connections to be made, Sabrina.
Oh, definitely. And I love that you are focusing internationally. I know that for a lot of organizations, they usually start in the community that they're living in. So it's interesting that you decided to go beyond that and go global and connect with kids in the country that you're not currently residing in.
Exactly. Well, thank you. That's a great question. But you know what? It's like, well, you are in Canada. I am in the US. But I say, as you know, for the ones that read my bio online somewhere, I was blessed with working with many different, large high-tech companies, and I was working internationally all the time. So what happens when you consistently work internationally, and I conducted business in more than 33 countries, it becomes normal, Sabrina, So, and when something becomes normal, it's like, for me, going to any of those 33 countries, like going literally to my own backyard. So it's it makes no difference. Obviously, I don't live there, but I've become so used to the people that live there. I have so many friends, partners, business partners, clients. So you become comfortable. It's at the end of the day, it's a matter of becoming comfortable with stuff. And I think also that I have developed the habit of consistently becoming uncomfortable with many different things. And so at the end of the day, it becomes part of my DNA as well, Sabrina.
Oh, for sure. You have to really push yourself if you want to see growth. So it's good that you got comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Totally. Yes, exactly. And just to share a small, kind of joke or anecdote with everybody here. Actually, when we were starting the conversation today, I had some technical issues and I couldn't fix them. So I said, Sabrina, you're going to be my guardian angel. Okay. I'm going to trust. If you think everything is going well, I fully blind eyes trust what's happening. And this is, this is exactly what happens very many times in my life.
Oh, for sure. So when you're doing your workshops with those kids,
Yes.
we were talking before this interview and you were mentioning how you really put an emphasis on the energy in the room. You want to make
True.
it so everybody is high energy and they're excited to learn. Why did you decide to focus on this? What research made you come to that conclusion?
That's a great question. So number one, I believe in, there's something or someone out there, up there, right? That sometimes is always trying to, set you up for victory or for success. And in this case, it was for me to find the perfect team to found, to create Wisdom for Kids. When I reached out to my friend, I actually had a spiritual experience that made me reach out to my friend. And I asked him, hey, this just happened, and I would like to create something like this. Who do you think could also make a contribution? He said, we have to reach out to my dad. And I said, why to your dad? Well, because my dad, blah, blah, blah. And when he started to tell me, I said, oh my God, he's just the perfect person to come with us, along with us, and start doing this all together, Wisdom for Kids. And that's the reason why is the following. This gentleman, he's already retired, he's 70 plus years old. But he taught for 50 plus years the teachers in Mexico. So he literally taught tens of thousands of teachers personally to become teachers in Mexico. And he's very well known, so everybody remembers him. So here we are, 50 years later, right? Literally, there's almost no small town, big town, city in Mexico and in many countries in Latin America who do not know this guy, okay? When we started to work on this and we said, okay, so we want to change this, the poverty in Latin America, 81 million kids living in poverty. How do we make sure that regardless of the community, if it is an urban community, suburban community, rural community, or even an indigenous community with very, very strong culture ties, right? How can we make sure that regardless of where we go, we can make the most of that workshop that we delivered, of those workshops? And he personally, he had not retired at that time. We talk about 2017, 2018. What he did is he actually had 2 PhD students to work on our workshops. So our workshops are the result of a year plus PhD student's thesis about how to make sure that regardless of all the differences, how could we make a difference in the lives of those kids and start them on an entrepreneurial journey. So that's the answer to your question. I mean, we put this amazing gentleman who's a professor or was a professor and two PhD students to work on what's the best way from a, let's say, from a teaching perspective, teaching training perspective. And we ended up with the idea that, I mean, everybody learns in a different way. As you know, there's people that like images, like, visual more, people like, more sensorial, multisensorial, others are more like audio. So how do we make this in a way that we leave a footprint on those communities and those kids, and at the same time, they really engage with us and they will always remember us, blah, 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 all those things, right? So we developed, a workshop and we started to, pilot it. We started to proof test it. And we immediately realized that the kids really, the kids are much more close to nature, much more close to, they have not still gone through so many bad things in their lives, they have not been taught or they have not been indoctrinated by the rest of society, because we do that. I mean, we, even as a parent, right? I mean, I have kids and I have to say, out of fear and control, I want my kids to thrive. I want them to be secure. We want to be safe. I want to be healthy, blah, blah, blah. We tend to put a lot of boundaries around them. And those boundaries, very often, those boundaries limit their growth. So going back to our workshops, as soon as we started to try, different activities that would immediately allow us to connect with the energy of those kids, they would immediately engage, and then we could ask them to do things, because obviously we want to get their feedback. I mean, we are very humble. I mean, to be honest, if we don't get their feedback, we are wasting our time, because it's all about them. It's not about us. Excuse me. So we started trying the different things we were doing, and obviously after the first missions that we did to Latin America, we started changing them until we found what we think is one of the most impactful workshops ever done to underprivileged kids in the world, to be honest. And we've done them in Spanish, obviously, many times, and we also started to proof test them in English, to be honest, into a country in the Caribbean. And we know we're gonna. I mean, I speak French, speak Portuguese. I'm sure that we're gonna do the same thing in French and Portuguese in the near future, because again, in Latin America, actually, all those languages are being spoken.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, we started to deploy or to deliver our workshops, and we started to connect with the kids at an energy level, and we play, we dance, we sing, we jump up and down, we do a meditation. We obviously we tell them stories, and we interact a lot, and we are all the time talking and getting their feedback, and this really resonates with them. We leave them with even a booklet, so they can repeat that meditation as many times as they want to. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are behind a simple booklet and a simple couple of hours of workshop. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of testing done, and I think we have something that is changing the lives of those kids every day, Sabrina.
Oh, it sounds like you are, definitely.
Thank you.
You're working with so many different cultures, different
Yes.
kids of different backgrounds, and
Yes.
for somebody who is kind of coming from the outside in, it sounds like you did a lot of work to get to know that community before you went in and tried to make change. How important is getting to know the people you serve, just to make sure that you're not, influencing your culture onto them, that you're really embracing their situation and talking to them with them through their language?
Exactly. This is a great question, and I think that respect really is in the forefront of everything that we do. Before we even get into a community, we connect with some community leaders through our connections, because as I said before, I mean, literally, we already have an established network all over the continent. I mean, one of our co-founders wrote more than 74 textbooks that are still today being used in several countries in Latin America as textbooks. So it's amazing the ability that we have to reach out to communities. But going back to your question, when we start connecting to these communities, we first tell them, we would like to do this, and that's the reason why we would like to do it. The first question they ask us is, how much is that going to cost us? And then we tell them, no, that's for free. It's our mission. That's what we would like to do with our lives. That's what we want to do with our lives, and we would like to keep on doing this moving forward, no matter what. And then we start a conversation, and we try to understand them. It's very different to talk to a community who's already inside a big city, or talking to a community which is in the mountains, in the indigenous community. We're talking about completely different levels of culture and what's normal to them. And our level of respect goes to a point in which, so that we don't even take the names of the kids. I mean, we don't carry a register of our kids, because we want to be extremely secure, or we want to have their data completely secure. We don't want to have any risk that someone makes a mistake and discloses all that information of all those kids that we talk to, because we are extremely respectful. But going back to your point, when we start those conversations, we tell them, hey, this is the kind of workshop we would like to do, okay? And we don't force anything. I mean, and let me tell you how far we take. We don't force anything or anybody to do anything or to believe anything. We go to communities, and unfortunately, drug dealing, drug addiction, even planting and cultivating and harvesting, it's a reality in many countries in Latin America, unfortunately. So we sometimes go to communities that actually, for a living, what they do is they have to harvest, and they have to actually take care of fields who have not the most legal substances. But we have to be, respectful about what's going on, So we know that even when we drive to some places, because we go to really, secluded kind of remote areas, sometimes the locals tell us, don't go that way, or you might be stopped by some cartel or some guerrilla or something. but still, I mean, what we do is all good. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because your reality in Toronto, Sabrina, and my reality in Plano, Texas, or in Texas in general, and their reality is completely different. So one thing that happens very often is one of the exercise that we do in the workshop is we ask the kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? And in communities that are heavily, militarized, some kids say, I would like to be a military, and that's not, military is not the same as in the US, and I myself, I'm the grandson and nephew of military people in Spain, but in Latin America in general, it's not like in the US that almost everybody has a veteran in their family, and they honor and they live by their principles, and it's a great thing. In Latin America, it's not the case. So when someone says, I want to be a military when you grow up, you realize that in those areas, they have had a strong presence of militaries for whatever reason. But there's also some people that say, that's the real story, Sabrina. Some kids raise their hand and they say, I would like to be a drug lord. Literally, and we don't judge the kids. Who are we to judge the kids? So our level of respect goes to that point in which we never tell anybody, any kid, any community leader that something is right or something is wrong. We just try to say and to tell everybody that we have to be respectful, we have to be accepting, and we have to go inside of our hearts to try to understand everybody else's position. And sometimes it's hard because obviously I would like to tell every single kid in that meeting or in that session, I would like to tell them being a drug lord is not a good thing, but we don't do this because we don't want them to be judgmental, right? And we respect that, we respect that. And then, we continue our conversation, and then, we do our meditation and everything. And we've really focus on self-esteem, because as you can imagine, self-esteem is a big thing for underprivileged kids. Very often they're not free in any sense. I mean, very often some of them go to school, others don't. But all of them probably, if they live in a suburban area or in a rural area, all of them probably they work in the fields at some point, maybe 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, or maybe the entire day they work in the fields with their parents, harvesting or doing things. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, we tend to think that kids, even underprivileged kids, live in similar conditions to ours, but they have less money, right? No, it's not the reality. The reality is that their complete environment can be totally different to ours. Totally different to ours, like totally different. There's kids that reach, their puberty and they have never studied the book. They have never opened the book. It's what it is. But still, we still do our, workshops, and we still, you see, I mean, if it was like whiteboarding, blackboarding, what would we do with kids with challenges in learning? So again, very respectful with the cultures, and just trying to be in a point of or to be like delivering our workshops from a place of accepting and humility and gratitude. Make sense?
That makes total sense. That was so interesting, because I never thought about it from that perspective of the normalization of dangerous situations like that. And you can't, as somebody trying to help these kids, you can't really come in and say, no, don't do that, because they're not going to listen to you anyways. So I love that you not only come in with that open mindset, but like you were mentioning before, asking for feedback, showing the kids that you really do value their input and you appreciate their time, as well as they obviously probably appreciate yours. So how did you begin implementing that feedback system? Was that something you always had in the beginning, or was it something that you implemented during your research?
Yes, no, since the very beginning, we had at least, I would say, 4 or 5 people actually in the workshop, although only one is delivering it, the rest are supporting. And then it's like 4 or 5 sets of eyes and ears, listening, analyzing, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of feedback, and then we identify who can be the kids that are like more prone to becoming entrepreneurs. And also remember that, I mean, not everybody has their both parents alive, or their both parents living with them. Many of them live with their tutors, and they can be uncles or aunts or grandparents. I mean, again, unfortunately, those families not always have like a structured, organized, living. Very often is a rough environment, physically speaking, and relationship speaking. So it's a place where we have to make sure all the time that those tutors or parents, they can only with an eyesight or with a sentence, they can say no. What you just learned or what you're supposed to do moving forward is not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So really our workshops, our startup or starting workshops are only a place where we connect with the kids at an energy level, and we make sure that we understand what they need. And then knowing the environment, we can start working with them and their parents and even the community leaders to start exploring what could be a good entrepreneurial journey for them. But again, it's a complex environment. Let me tell you an anecdote that also is going to give you a kind of a reality check of what's going on. I remember going to a rural area one time, and all the time, without exception, always the community leaders say, wow, I can't believe that someone for free is going to do this for our kids. Because they always tell us the same thing. If it's not you, we know that we will never have this opportunity. Mm-hmm. Nobody, I mean, the chances of us having someone else like you calling us to do this, it's like zero. But obviously, the parents find out later when the community leader with their influence, right? The community leaders with their influence, they go to their parents or tutors and say, hey, this group of people are going to be, in town or in the community in that particular date, and they would like to do this with the kids, blah, blah, blah. One day, the actually parents, which is not normally the case, but they showed up in the workshop, and they were coming with everything that they use for their daily job, right? So, and I remember one or two fathers, they came with their machetes.
Oh, wow.
Inside the place where we were conducting the workshop. And I tell you, the faces were not the most friendly faces. They were there like saying, what are you guys going to do here? I mean, why are you guys, making our kids going to do, whatever. I mean, we start, just to give you an example, we start jumping up and down to a very nice, music in the beginning of the workshop. But they have these faces, and I mean, they carry their machetes. They could have left the machetes outside. They were carrying them inside the room where we're holding the workshop. And after 5-10 minutes, they realized that was like, an extremely friendly, joyful, cared for place of growing, learning, and having a nice experience. And then they left immediately, and we didn't see them for the rest of the day. And then, the community leaders took care of them after the session, after the workshop. But it's not always the case, and I understand them. I like to do the due diligence myself of things that my kids are going to go through, right? We all want to make sure that whenever wherever we go, we do our due diligence before it's too late. And mm-hmm. That's something I always tell my own kids: make sure that you develop a critical thinking. So don't say yes for the sake of fitting in. I'd rather have you not fit in than put yourself in a spot that you didn't want to be in the first place, and then you don't know how to get rid. As you know, Sabrina, young people today, they don't have the best models to follow. So I think that kids developing a critical mind is a very good thing to do.
Oh, 1,000%. That's a very terrifying situation to be in. You handle that really well.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you have to be yourself, and we teach out of our hearts, and we do all sorts of silly things besides what we deliver in the workshop. Besides that, I mean, we play soccer, and we are being asked to do this, and we are invited to houses to have coffee or to have dinner or to have lunch, and very humble houses. I mean, I remember, again, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but most of the houses that we go to, when we go to those communities, they invite us to have lunch or breakfast, for instance, which is the most common thing, because they want to show their gratitude to us. I mean, these places don't have floors, they have tiles, they are basically dirt, and they don't have any sort of, fan system. So when they are cooking, the smoke is inside all over the place. Again, we don't remember this, but if we talk to our grandparents, right, or our grandparents will probably would remember that at some point they were living in a place in where these things happened, maybe, I don't know, 100 years ago, maybe 70 years ago. But we have forgotten this, and we still go to communities that this happens today. This happens today, and obviously for the rest of the day we smell to smoke, but it's okay because they were so, oh my God, grateful, and they were so loving and caring and appreciative, and they wanted us to be there, and they wanted us to eat their soups and to eat their tacos or whatever that is that they were preparing with all their loves, and we get to eat those vegetables or those fruits. It's, again, I think it would be a good exercise for many of the parents out there if they would take their kids to places like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like the smell of the smoke is like a badge of honor, like you're being accepted into that community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we tend to see maybe campfires, right? But how many times have we been in a place with no dirt, right, and full of smoke, just because unfortunately the conditions of the place is just what they have. And when it rains, they get wet, and when it's cold, they get cold, because their houses are open, literally are open. They're not like fully enclosed, they're open. But again, it's like, for us, it's a privilege to be able to live that situation. And obviously I'm explaining this in a positive note, saying that we should all be aware, including our kids, we should all be aware of what's going on in the world in many places, in many, many places.
1,000%. Before we go today, I'd love to get your advice for other people looking to help communities internationally. What are the 3 things you suggest they do before they even touch base with those communities? Yeah,
I mean, the first thing is, I believe in the good that every single human being has inside of them. Okay, that's definitely something I'm completely convinced of. So the first piece of advice is, if you want to help a community, regardless of the community, the first thing I would advise you to do is first think of something that you really like to do. In my case, it was entrepreneurship, and it was kids, because I had seen so many thousands and thousands of kids in need. And also I had taught so many people about business management, sales, marketing, and I had taught so many entrepreneurs that for me was something that I knew I was really going to have fun with. That's number 1. Number 2, and I'm going to use a motto I use for my clients in the business part of my life, which is take imperfect action now. Don't try to do things complicated. Okay, if you already know what your passion is and something that you would like to do, then choose a community, and it can be even a local community, or it can be a remote community, an international community, to a place that you have a friend. Make things easy. Go to a place that you already know someone, and then proof test it. You don't have to announce it to the world. No, just go to that place. Go to that place that you know someone, organize a small activity, mission, whatever you want to call it, and do it. And just do it. Okay, so first, find something that you really like to do. Second, use an easy path, low-hanging fruit of people that you know to a place where you think you're going to make a difference, and do it. And number 3, be full in. I mean, don't go there and try to see, no, I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. No. Just be yourself fully, like fully engaged with the people. Be fully present. Put every single drop of your sweat you have into that activity, into that mission, into that thing that you're doing. 100%. And listen. The secret is in the listening. It's not even in the talking or in the showing. It's in the listening. That's why we always go so many people to the same workshop. You will say, well, how ineffective it is. Well, it might be ineffective or inefficient, but you know what? We get a lot of feedback. And for us to have feedback from our communities is the most important thing, because that's the only way to help them better. So you guys, when you take step 2, which is going to that community, listen and be fully present and do everything you can. When you do that for the first time, second time, third time, and keep course correcting. Those will be the 3 steps. And you will never regret it. And sometimes people tell me, hey, Angel, why do you go to Latin America? Don't do it here locally. Because, I mean, believe it or not, although we live in a pretty good area here in north of Texas, there's always places in the world, places in our local communities that they need the same thing. So I always say the same thing. Okay, good, let's do it. I always say, let's do it. Let's do a branch of Wisdom for Kids here in Texas. Why not? Or in any other, as you know, Sabrina, I mean, I'm sure you know in Toronto plenty of places where unfortunately the kids don't have the best life, you know, and you definitely can help them, and you know you can help them. Then, as you know, there's thousands and thousands of volunteers all over the place, and including Toronto, that help kids in need today, right now as we speak, Sabrina, of course.
Oh, 1,000%. Well, that's a beautiful place to end this podcast, Angel. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and giving us such fantastic words of wisdom.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you very much. If I may, I just would like to remind people, if they want to reach out to me, if it's a possibility, just to tell them what my email address is, which is angel, ANGEL, at @angelribo. Ribo is my last name, is spelled like RIB as in boy, O.com. Again, angel at angelribo.com. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And obviously, thank you everybody who's watching or listening to us today.
You can also find Angel's email linked in our description box along with his LinkedIn. And we also have a media kit link that will allow you access to all the social media and where you can learn more about Wisdom for Kids and how to get in contact with Angel. If you want to work internationally or have plans to do anything internationally, he really is your guy. He does amazing work, and I know that you will not be disappointed if you get in contact with him. And if you want to stay updated on the podcast, we would love it if you can follow us on social media. Our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter are linked in the description box as well. And we are also on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel in the podcast, we would greatly appreciate it, and you'd be updated when new episodes are live. As always, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Fundraising Superheroes.